I had a great choice, but I have no doubt that I picked the right person to join me as the next Vice President of the United States of America, and that's Senator Kamala Harris. Kamala, as you all know, is smart, she's tough, she's experienced, she's a proven fighter for the backbone of this country, the middle class. As a child of immigrants, she knows personally how immigrant families enrich our country, as well as the challenges of what it means to grow up Black and Indian American in the United States of America.
After the most competitive primary in history, the country received a resounding message that Joe was the person to lead us forward. And Joe, I'm so proud to stand with you. And I do so mindful of all the heroic and ambitious women before me, whose sacrifice, determination, and resilience makes my presence here today even possible. We're reeling from the worst public health crisis in a century, and we're experiencing a moral reckoning with racism and systemic injustice that has brought a new coalition of conscience to the streets of our country, demanding change. We don't have to accept the failed government of Donald Trump and Mike Pence. In just 83 days, we have a chance to choose a better future. But let's be clear, this election isn't just about defeating Donald Trump or Mike Pence. It's about building this country back better.
She was my #1 pick. I mean, she was, as they would say, because hopefully you'll start college football, she was my #1 draft pick. And we'll see how she works out. She did very, very poorly in the primaries, as you know. She was expected to do well. And she ended up at right around 2% and spent a lot of money. She had a lot of things happening. And so I was a little surprised that he picked her.
After 3.5 years, do you regret it all the lying you've done to the American people? On
All the what?
All the lying, all the dishonesties.
That who has done?
You have done. Tens of thousands.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Please. Go ahead.
I'm Barry Gordon.
And I'm Andre Coleman.
And this is NewsRap. Not quite live at 5.
But we're here.
Well, Dre, you must be a happy guy.
Man, this is what I've been waiting for. This is it right here. And look, my prediction is paying off. You got to give it to me. My prediction is paying off if you saw that speech. She did a great job. The party is fired up. Money is rolling in. This is the chance. This is what we've been waiting for right here.
Okay. Yes. She did a great job. I'm gonna go there. She did a great job.
Hang on, let me see if it's a blue moon up there.
I know. It was a smart pick. It actually was. It was probably the safest pick. And I think if you'd asked maybe well, I don't want to say 10 years ago because we had Barack Obama, but let's say 15 years ago, if you had said that the safe pick was a woman of color, I don't think that would have happened. If we talk about signs of progress, I think we have to admit that there's been some progress. And
every political consultant in the world would have said 15, 20 years ago, this is not a safe pick. They would have probably said it was the wrong pick. But
that's right.
Here we are.
And here we are. And it's absolutely the safe pick. I mean, if you go through the other finalists, right? Mm-hmm. If it's Warren, as much as I love Warren, oh my God, the whole thing would be Antifa And it's going to be anyway.
Right.
No one's going to believe it. But with Warren, it's just way out there, lefty, crazy person.
Pocahontas, we started all that stuff again.
That's what it would have been. If it had been Susan Rice, Benghazi, right? We would have relitigated the whole Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State thing.
Over and over again.
If it had been Karen Bass, maybe not, but, she said the things about Cuba, so she was a little risky.
Yep.
No one else, I don't think, was really figuring that heavily. Gretchen Whitmer would have been dangerous because she's kind of polarized Michigan a little bit right now. So Kamala is clearly the safe pick. And at this point, all you need is a safe pick because I can't think of anybody on the left side of things, except maybe Jared. But I can't think of anybody who is not going to vote for this ticket. So you didn't have to shore up the left.
Well,
it wasn't necessary. You didn't have to do that. Now, what's going to happen once they're in office is another story. And where the future...
Well, that's when when they get into office together, we can begin to have these discussions about where the party is going.
Exactly.
If this is even the best choice for the next 4 years after that. I'm down with those conversations completely. But we have to get to the point where we can have those conversations, and this is the best path there.
But Kamala is clearly now the heir apparent to the leadership of the Democratic Party. And
right now,
the question is, which I've always had a problem with Kamala about and will continue to, except perhaps not in this role as vice president, which is I just don't know what her level of commitment is.
Well, you know what?
She was for Medicare for all, then she wasn't for Medicare for all. And she was for this, and then she wasn't for this. But I will say this, she got, incredibly nice comments from Elizabeth Warren, who certainly, said she loved working with Kamala, and they were together fighting when she was Attorney General and fighting against Wall Street and big banks. And so, I'm going to hope that that's the Kamala that shows up. I'm going to hope now that she doesn't have to run, that she's going to have a conviction and she's going to be strong. And that's what I'm going to hope.
You know what? And if she remains the heir apparent, let's say she remains that, hopefully in the next 4 years, she will figure out exactly what policies and what it is she wants. And it will be something that the party can move forward on. But if we get there in 4 years and she is not the heir apparent, well, then that's fine too. And we move forward with whoever that is. What I do like is the party is unified behind this ticket. Bernie Sanders, everybody is unified. It is not where we were 4 years ago.
No.
And with that in mind, I'll say that even in the first two speeches, and you brought this up before we came on the air, she's doing what she needs to do by not stepping on Biden. She's got a lot of charisma.
Yes, absolutely, because that would be the fear. She's a very strong personality, and the fear would be that she would make Biden look less strong. But she didn't. And when they had the coronavirus discussion and the round table, they were sitting across from each other with their great notepads. It's a pleasure now to see someone, actually taking notes, actually listening, actually being, interested.
Present at the meetings.
Yes. And then the way she came on and said, after Joe talked, that's what leadership is. And I think, if she continues to do that, and still be her own person and still be strong. But, if they keep talking from the same playbook, it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to the convention. By the way, I do have to say that as a Jewish lawyer,
I know where you're going.
I do have a certain amount of love for Doug. I really do. A certain amount of empathy with Doug, in a very good way. They seem really, in love like I am with my wife, and so so I like that too. I like the warmth.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what we gotta watch.
So maybe, you know, maybe she is much warmer than I think she is. I hope she is, but you know, and I didn't also realize that she's 5'2".
She looks a lot taller, huh?
Doesn't she? But I
Yeah.
checked that on Google, and I checked it
5'2".
like 5 different sources, and she's 5'2".
When I went to see her speak, I was surprised at how short she is. But I'm gonna tell you what to watch for.
Okay.
The next thing you and I gotta watch for here, and we may need to make a road trip, and you're gonna get it here in a second.
Okay.
AG, do we go Sally Yates or do we go Adam Schiff? They both have to be in the running at this point.
Yeah, they probably do. They probably do. I don't think we go Sally Yates.
Well, consider this.
don't think so.
There's going to be a Senate seat open that Newsom's going to get to make an appointment over if they win.
My guess
Who
is
picks up
right,
that seat?
I think Karen Bass.
And see, that's what I would say too. But I'm looking at the AG thing, and I'm wondering if our old pal Adam is going to make a move in that direction.
I don't. Well, he may make a move on his own, but I will be surprised again. You know, and I don't want to sound. I have to be careful here because I don't want to sound like tokenism. I don't want to sound like affirmative action. But what I do want to sound like is that the Senate should look like America. And,
of course.
My feeling is that Newsom really should replace Kamala with a woman
of color
and
black
with a woman with a black woman. I think so. And you know, perhaps an Hispanic woman, but I would say a black woman. And I would think that Karen Bass has the inside track on that.
Yeah, I think you know that. That's a very good way of looking at that.
Yeah, because you know, as much as I love Adam, to you know, stick a white Jewish guy in there, you know, I don't see it right now. I just don't.
I want Adam. If Adam has to move, I'd like Adam to be the AG. If he has to move,
well, he'd be an amazing.
If he's called
AG.
upon, he's going to serve.
Boy, would he clean up.
He'd be a great AG.
He would clean up the justice system. But then there are also people on the outside who have been part of the system, like Neil Katyal, for example.
Right.
You know, the people that we've gotten used to on cable TV. But, you know, they're very impressive as well. Preet Bharara.
We have a big bench. So we have a big bench to choose from.
You do. And I hope, you know, but I also think that Biden is going to be pretty cautious with what he does. He's not going to want to rock the boat. He's not going to want to throw Wall Street into a flame out. So, you know, I think he's going to have to be a little bit careful. But the real key though is, do we get the majority of the Senate? Because if we get the majority of the Senate, we're going to get a Green New Deal. We're going to get a public option. We're going to get, I mean, all of those things are going to happen because we don't have super conservative Democrats anymore.
No, not at all.
We've sorted those away. And so if you have now maybe Joe Manchin, I don't know, he's sometimes a problem child, although he's been great right now with the post office stuff. He's really, really been great on that. So the question is, will he support a public option? I think he will. I think I think he will support a public option if Doug Jones is still there. I think he will also. You know, we have to see what's going to happen, but with a majority of the Senate, we can change the vision for this country.
Well, you know what? Not only can we change the vision, we can quickly begin to fix the damage caused by this previous administration. And I know there's a lot of damage to be fixed. And that's why I said begin to fix it. I know we're going to go to local here. I want to make one more point to everybody about the way the world's supposed to work. What we are seeing now is the vice president, just wrap your head around this. The vice president of the first Black president will now bring in, if things go well, the first Black vice president who is a woman.
Right. That's right. Or another way to put that is
Joe
that Biden. Another way to put that is that Biden will be part of 2 interracial tickets.
He will help break 2 barriers.
That's right.
Think about that when people say Biden's racist past and all those things.
No, you can't anymore. That you
got to get rid of that.
You got to put that away. Yeah, you do.
You got to go forward.
You do. And if we had comments, we'd have them. But actually, we're on a delay, folks. And so you're going to see this tonight because we had a little bit of a technical difficulty. That's what happens when you work at home. And our computer.
And it's live TV, right?
Our computer decided to do what computers do. This happened to me, in fact, 2 weeks ago. It just decided to do a Windows update. Hey, and once that happens, what? 4 hours?
Can't shut it down.
Of nothingness. And you can't stop it.
At the weekly one time, I had to call in and dictate a breaking story word for word, almost 1,000 words, because my computer decided to update right as I wrote the first word. It just went to an update. I had to just jump.
There is a way to set it, by the way. We'll all talk about that because you can set it to do it at 2:00 in the morning or something like that.
In the morning, right?
Yeah.
Right.
All right, guys, we're going to go to the local brief.
All right.
This is your local news brief for Friday, August 14th, 2020. As of August 13th, Pasadena has reported 2,178 COVID-19 cases, along with 111 deaths. Thursday saw 32 new cases, more than double what had been reported in the last few days. Spokesperson Lisa Derderian said it was possible the larger number was partially due to the state's electronic lab reporting system catching up on a backlog. Statewide, there have been 593,141 confirmed COVID-19 cases that have led to 10,808 deaths. 2 bills by Pasadena Assemblymember Chris Holden addressing the use of force and corporate diversity will be heading to state committees this month. If passed, AB 1022 would make it a police officer's duty to intercede and intervene when witnessing another officer using excessive force. It establishes guidelines on responsibilities and accountability in situations of excessive force. Police reforms like this have been common in the wake of protests over the death of George Floyd. AB 979 would require publicly held corporations in California to have people from underrepresented communities serve as board members. If passed, publicly held corporations must bring on at least 1 director from an underrepresented community by the end of next year. Corporate boards with more than 4 members would have to include at least 2 members from underrepresented communities and 3 for those with more than 9 board members by 2022. The Pasadena Unified School District is officially starting the school year this Monday, August 17th. In light of COVID-19, all instruction will be done virtually through social distance learning. PUSD students and parents began picking up learning materials, including Chromebooks, earlier this week. According to a written statement from the district, students will be expected to log in and start their school day at the regular start time. Students will be using Canvas Learning Management System and Cleaver Dashboard, both of which are preloaded onto the PUSD-issued Chromebooks. Schools will be providing distance learning schedules to each student. Teachers will interact with students and take attendance daily. Accommodations for students with special needs will be provided. Social distance learning is expected to continue until public health officials give clearance and allow activity on school campuses. Once campus activities are allowed, a hybrid model of learning consisting of both online instruction and in-person classes will be offered to students. Don't forget about the 2020 census. More information can be found at my2020census.gov.
Boy, the cases keep mounting, huh? They just, they don't stop.
Well, you know, we were told this week at Pasadena Now that where we are now in this thing is that younger and younger people are being infected.
Yeah.
And while that doesn't lead to more hospitalizations because they have stronger bodies, it does run the risk of impacting a higher infection rate because they're more likely to go out. They're more likely to interact with more people and bring it back home.
That's the problem. And
There's
it's not that they'll get sick, it's the transmissibility of this virus.
Right.
And yes, little children don't tend to transmit.
That's right.
But older children, even starting at my granddaughter's age, 10 years old, they are equally able to transmit this disease as adults. So, you know, and there's no difference. Once you get to about 10, it's the same thing.
As an adult having
So if they're not wearing masks, if they're not socially distancing, and by the way, you need to do both. Most people don't get that. Most people think you can wear a mask and then you don't have to social distance. That's really not true. If you look,
no, you got to mask up and social distance.
Should mask up and social distance.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I wanted to ask you about is Chris and his police, his bill about the police. So have you been following that? And also, what is the intersection of that with what we're trying to do locally?
Well, you know, if the state does something, it's going to supersede what we do here locally.
Right.
Obviously. Same with federal. I think what Chris has is a great idea, and I have been following it. The problem always comes.
So tell us what the idea is, so in case other people haven't been.
The idea of Chris's bill is that an officer uses force, and that force begins to cross the line. Another officer has a responsibility to stop him and later report him. So let me give you a great example. The Rodney King video. You've seen it. I've seen it. Probably everybody over 30 has seen it in some form or another, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many? Now we know that 4 officers were charged, and we saw what those 4 officers were doing.
Right.
You recall that, right?
Yes.
But you remember there were a group of officers standing around doing nothing. Every one of those officers would have had a responsibility to stop their comrades, co-workers, whatever you want to call them, and later accurately report what happened. Now, the reporting part, obviously, our officers are already required to accurately report, kind of thing. So that's the key here. Now, people will jump up and down over this, obviously. That's A. B, 2 things to keep in mind. Bills that go into the system don't necessarily, the law doesn't come out the way the bill went in.
Right.
You and I both know that.
Sure.
Changes are made so that deals can get cut for votes and things like that. And it wouldn't be because Chris changed his mind. He may have to compromise to get something.
Yeah.
So let's put it that way. I like it because it is another level of accountability. And right now, what I think we need in the state, in the country, in local municipalities are levels, not just one commission kind of thing. We need levels of accountability on police officers. For example, Pasadena, Terry Tornick made an excellent point. The police get the biggest slice of the budget, but there is no commission holding them accountable like there is for planning, like there is for public safety, which has a committee. So that's kind of the whole idea around police accountability. How it intersects with our local things that we're doing, it will not change the efforts to create police accountability or oversight, but it will weigh on it, meaning this is another level that they can look at and say, why didn't you stop this? Why didn't you act here?
So, excuse me. So let's talk a little bit about local politics.
Sure.
And how is this issue of police oversight going to play in this mayoral election?
Well, I will tell you.
Is it?
So it could, because I think we both know that Victor came out in front in the primary before the runoff. But the biggest, I think, vulnerability that Victor had was you had a lot of people saying, younger people who said that Victor was not for police oversight. Victor has now voted to change the city charter for oversight. So in other words, if we had forums, Zoom forums or forums in person, Victor now can say, hey, I made this vote to change the charter to give people subpoena power. He voted for the most progressive, aggressive model. And this is what's key. Victor votes first because we go by alphabetical order. So when Victor made his vote, he didn't know it was not going to pass. So you can't say, oh, Victor knew this or Victor knew that. He voted first. Terry voted against that, but Terry has come up with his own plan. So both of them are going to take a victory lap on oversight to some degree. Yeah. But that's a very small portion of our electorate who will vote just on that one issue. I don't think that a sweeping majority goes, okay, this is the issue that moves me in one way or another, is my opinion.
You don't think so? Because, I mean, some of what I'm hearing is that Tornick is really, really shoring up the black vote with what he's been doing. You're not hearing that?
I've heard people say that. I don't know if that's the case. I know that that's what they're both trying to do. They're both trying to go after young progressives, white and black, who marched. You know, they know that there are young people screaming for change, and they're trying to say, look, I'm marching with you, not physically, but with my vote on council. Mm-hmm. That's what both of them want to be able to say. Now, whose message will resonate? We will see. I don't know that he's shoring up the black vote, though. I know that he's trying to, and I know that Victor's trying to also, and they should.
Absolutely. So, what do you think? Go ahead.
I think the better way to do that, though, is after we get past accountability, you got to start talking about jobs in the city. You got to start talking about how you're going to include people. I mean, look, if you do that and people still don't have jobs and these big developments are going up and there is no program to bring black people or young people into construction jobs as Pasadena continues to construct businesses. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. We have accountability for a whole lot of people who aren't working.
That's right. Well, stay tuned, folks. We're going to be talking about this Democratic convention next week. Yep. We have no idea what that's going to look like, but I'm guessing Lin-Manuel Miranda will be part of it at some point.
And you'll be watching.
I'm just
what
guessing.
We do know is that what we do know is that you'll be watching and I'll be watching. That's what we know.
We'll be watching all of it. That's right. Yep. And so that's it for us. So until next time, I'm Barry Gordon.
And hopefully we'll be back live, and I'm Andre Coleman.
We'll look forward to that. Okay, this has been NewsRap. Not quite live at 5. Good to see you. Have a good week. Take care.